Hello everyone. So let's learn about law of diminishing marginal utility in this video. Law of diminishing marginal utility, also known as LDMU, is a very important law to understand consumer behavior. This law tells us that if everything else is held constant, marginal utility keeps declining or is downward sloping. To understand this better, let's understand two other concepts, that is total utility and marginal utility. Total utility talks about the cumulative satisfaction or utility derived from consumption of all the units till then. If, for example, we have consumed 5 chocolates, so a person A, after the total utility is put together for all the 5 chocolates, and the marginal utility is individual for each unit. For example, after consumption of third unit, the total utility includes the satisfaction derived together for all the 3 units, whereas marginal utility is individual for the third unit. That is, to calculate marginal utility for the third unit, we have to take the total utility of till the third unit minus the total utility till the second unit, that is till the n units minus n minus 1 unit. So let's take another example to understand this better. Imagine it's your birthday and your mom has invited a lot of your friends, your family members, for the celebration of your birthday. And after the cake cutting, everybody wants to feed you with the cake, with cake pieces. So the first piece after your mom feeds, the total utility is 30. So since this is the first unit, the total utility and marginal utility is the same. Since it's the first unit and also the cake has come out really well, it's your favorite flavor, the total utility is 30. After you consuming the second unit fed by any other relative of yours, the total utility is increasing, but then the marginal utility has slightly dropped. This drop can be because you have already tasted it, and also the taste, that surprise that you had in the first piece is not here, and also your stomach is slightly filled now, so the marginal utility has dropped. Now let's plot this on a graph. Now let's take one more example. Imagine your sibling or your cousin feeding you the third piece. So here the total utility is still increasing, but then marginal utility has further declined. Again, the reason is the same. Now that your stomach is more filled, the satisfaction has slightly come down. But then still the pieces are small, so your total utility is increasing. Now let's take few other situations and simultaneously plot it also. So now if you see, the total utility has been increasing till the 6th unit and then has become constant. It is 105 at 6, and the 7th unit has contributed nothing towards the total utility. This is because you've reached one saturation point and you're just eating for the sake of eating, so that you don't hurt your friend or your relative. And it's given you nil satisfaction. And after that, the total utility is declining. This is because your saturation point has already been crossed, and now you're eating just not to hurt others, but then you're starting to hate the flavor, and also you're completely full by now, so it's declining. Let's plot it. If you see, I've marked it in separate color so that it's easy to understand. So it first increases, then becomes constant, and then declines, while the marginal utility is consistently declining. So if we plot this, it gives you a downward sloping line. So to understand this even further, let's compare both the curves, the total utility and the marginal utility. So when the total utility is become constant, the marginal utility is touching zero, which means the maximum satisfaction or that particular product could give you is being reached. And then after that, it's declining. The further consumption will give you negative marginal utility. So as it's declining, your marginal utility goes negative. So now let's understand this better with one is the consumer has to be rational, should be able to make logical decisions and preferences, and also the product consumed should not be something the consumer is addicted to or something highly attached to. It should be a neutral product and the consumer should be rational. The units have to be standard and identical. The units can't be too small, which if it is very tiny, even consuming 10 units will not decline the marginal utility. And if it's too big, the first unit itself will give you negative total utility and marginal utility. So the unit has to be of a standard size and all the units should be the same. It should be of the same kind, same variety, same commodity, and the size also should be the same. There should be no gap between consumption of the first unit and the second unit and so on. If there is too much gap, there can be change in your preferences. For example, if you eat one piece of cake in the morning and the other in the night, and there can be difference in your hunger levels and what you prefer at that point of time. So it's not easy to calculate and come to a conclusion with such a large time gap. So all the units have to be consumed at the same point of time, one after the other. Then we assume that the utility can be measured in cardinal units. So it's very difficult to measure utility or satisfaction. But then here, for this sake of this law, we assume that we can measure it in terms of numbers. And the last thing is everything has to be kept constant. So there should be no difference in your income levels, in your satisfaction, or in your preferences, taste, any other thing economically or societally or psychologically. There should be no change. Everything else has to be constant. Then let's take a few exemptions. The first one being habitual goods. If you're, as I already told, it should not be something you're addicted to, not something you're used to consuming every day. So for habitual goods, this particular law is not applicable. Then the next one is rare collections. So be it coin collection, stamp collection, or handicrafts, anything, maybe getting a new thing, new coin or a new stamp immediately would add on to your marginal utility and it may not always decline. So this particular law is not applicable to for any of such collections. The last one is valuable goods, be it money, diamonds, gold, any other expensive items. It'll only add, your marginal utility will only keep increasing and be positive and it will not decline that easily. You will never feel dissatisfied getting additional money. I don't think that is really possible for any rational consumer. So again, this particular law is not applicable for valuable goods. So with this, I would end this topic. And in case you have any questions, any corrections, suggestions, or if you have a request for a particular topic, do let me know in the comment section so that I can look into it. Thank you.